DB down here. And if I click on that and expand it, I see two things already that have the exact same name between them. And if I expand this wind feature data set, for instance, or this petroleum natural gas feature data set, I can see all these feature classes have the same names and types as they did in the energy folder for those shape files. Does everybody see that? And if you click in preview, let's say my onshore wind turbine locations shape file. Come on. It's not working for me. There we go. So if I preview that shape file, and then I go into my geodatabase and select that feature class with the same name, my preview is exactly the same. Because really all I've done is take a shape file that lived on its own and moved it into a geodatabase. So they're essentially equivalent. All right. So let's take a look at a couple other tools. I'm going to minimize my energy geodatabase and my energy folder. I'm going to go to my political folder. And I'm going to click this countries shapefile. Right? So what kind of data are these? I know I'm being a little repetitive here, but this is important to know. Are they raster or vector? Vector. And how can you tell before you even open it? Because of the icon, right? So now let's take a look at something called the identify tool. There's an eye in a blue circle here at the top. If I click this and then click on something, one of these polygons, I get a window that opens up. And here I can see not only what country it is, but now I start seeing all this other data about it. Things like a label rank, the type, name, different name fields, abbreviations. If I scroll down, I can see GDP type of groups, the region, the subregion, all of these different data associated with it. And what did we call those? The attributes, exactly. So with the identify tool, you can get a quick preview at the attributes of anything in a data set. Let's see. Yeah, if you go to that full extent, click this one, that'll zoom you out. And then if you click this one, and then click on, say, the United States. There we go.
Okay.
So this is very cool for file management. Does it support scripting? The ARC catalog specifically? Or some other
In
piece of
ARC
art?
Toolbox, yes. You can write your own custom scripts.
So you could access it that way, but it would be through the ARC Toolbox.
I think so, if I'm interpreting your question correctly.
Like doing the same thing with typing and now
Thanks. Potentially.
like if you had 100 files and doing the same thing to all of them.
Yeah, that's a more advanced thing. We GIS people are very interface, click, and do things. But yeah, there's scripting you can do later on. We can talk about that at the end if you like. All right. So we previewed some of these attributes. Let's see if we can take a look at all the attributes associated with this shape file. So here on the bottom of the page, notice my preview by default says geography. So we're just looking at the location. Let's click on that down here at the bottom, switch the preview to a table. So this is where you can go and preview the attribute table and see all the information associated with your data set. So each polygon in that shapefile has one row in the table. And so each row has a bunch of different fields or columns associated with it. So now you can see they have that header that matches what we saw when we used the identify tool, but now you can see the values for all of the data. You can also do things like sort the table. For instance, if I want to sort by, where's the name? This one looks like it's already pretty close to alphabetical, but I can right click on the field at the top where it says name. I'll do it again. If I put my mouse right on the top of the column, right click, I get this window where I can sort ascending or sort descending. Right, so this is going to now, if I say sort descending, reorder the countries starting with Zimbabwe and moving towards the beginning of the alphabet. You know, you can do that for label rank. I'm not entirely sure what this is, but you can also sort ascending or sort descending based on numeric values as well as on text. All right, so one other thing that's good to take a look at is this last tab, this description tab. And hang on one second. Okay, so you should see a window that looks like this, right? If you're still in that country shapefile, you click the description tab. Description shows what's called the metadata for your data. So metadata is, I'm going to sound repetitive here, data about your data, right? So this is who created it, when was it created, what was the source, has there been any processing done on it, what's the resolution or the appropriate scale range. It should also give a description of what those fields are, you know, what each of these columns meant. So if I go back to the table for a second, properly created metadata will let you know, say what this BRK underscore name, what that actually means, and why does it exist along with other name fields, right? Just as an example. So when you look at the metadata for this, what do you notice? There's nothing in there. It's kind of frustrating to get a data set and know nothing about it. So it's the mark of a good geospatial professional when you create data to spend time actually filling in metadata associated with it. So that way, if I go and say download something that maybe they're points, LiDAR especially, that I've been working with, you want to know if they've been thinned or had processing done on them or altered that may make them invalid for your survey. Or let's say you're looking at, say, some disease incidents. You might want to know what years they were from. Or with crime data, the definition of the crimes change over time, so you can't directly analyze data from, say, the 1950s to today because crimes didn't mean the same thing. Does that make sense? So it gives you insight into how those data were created and whether or not you can use them. What the software defaults to is what's called the item description format, which is very short. If you go to Customize on the top and go to Art Catalog Options, right? So we say Customize on top and Art Catalog Options, and then go to the Metadata tab. Here in this dropdown, you can select the specific style. And there are a number of different standardized formats. One of the more common ones is this FGDC, the first one in the list. So I'll select that and say OK. And then I'm going to start clicking through other shapefiles. Let's see, most of these are pretty empty, right? Who can find one that actually has metadata associated with it?
You can use the states.
The states comments.
Yeah, this one. Use the states.
This one?
Yeah.
There we go. If you get this upgrade metadata warning, just close that. So now you can see there are tags associated with it. So if somebody's trying to search for a keyword, it's along with it. It gives you a summary, a description. It tells you where these came from, how they were stored. Use limitations. It says the display scale is for a specific setting. So if you zoom in on this data set, you're going to find it's very low resolution or it doesn't have a lot of detail. And if you scroll down, you can also see the spatial reference, the coordinate system essentially, but then all the fields and a description of what those fields mean. So again, this is useful to look at later and important to create if you're making your own GIS data. So, any questions on ArcCatalog? So I want to do a quick demonstration because I mentioned before we want to use ArcCatalog for managing and especially renaming, copying, and pasting your data, and not Windows Explorer. So I don't want you to do what I'm about to do. I may rename a file and I don't want you to try it because